In this example, we're going to go over overlap. So I've just done a little colorful snowman here, just giving you guys a little bit of an example of overlap. So what this is going to be is that the objects kind of further away from the root are going to drag behind and then overshoot from what the main object is doing. So I've done that here with the driving factor being this green ball. So it's kind of leaning left, leaning right, then kind of coming to a settle. And you can see that the blue one is a little bit dragged behind it. So it's overlapping the action there. So I've only done a little bit of overlap on this one. And I'm going to show you guys how to both exaggerate that, and then we're also going to add additional overlap onto the orange ball, which right now is just fully stuck to the blue ball. So this will kind of give us more overlap and show you guys sort of an example of this. So these are my keys that I've got on my blue ball. And if I look at the graph editor here, so we've sort of got, we're dragging this ball behind here. So if I wanted to just exaggerate everything, just kind of amp up this motion here. So by making the curve more extreme on the rotations here, we're going to get a more exaggerated overlap. So we've got some drag here as the green one is rolling to the left, the blue one is dragging behind, then the green one kind of comes to a stop, and then the blue one overshoots that. So here you can see that the green one is starting to roll back to the right, but our blue one is still moving towards the left. So it's dragging behind and overshooting. So that's kind of what overlap is we've got sort of a second object, or this can of course be within the same object. For instance, if I move my chest, rotate my chest left and right, then my arm is going to drag and overshoot or overlap from the motion driven from my chest. So we're always kind of paying attention to where the root of the motion is coming from, and then everything sort of further away from that root is going to have more overlap. So here we've got quite a lot of overlap. So let's just take a look at what that looks like with this exaggerated motion that we've added here. So we've got quite a lot of overlap going on there. And then I'm just going to add some more even to the orange ball. So the quickest way to do this is to use the curve that you already have existing and then just offsetting it. So this is the curve of the blue ball, sort of the overlap motion that we've got going on, which I took from originally the green ball. So this first curve is our green ball's rotations left and right, and then our blue ball is going to have essentially the same rotation here, but I've just nudged it forward a few frames. So if we assume the same, that this key here, the very first frame of the green ball, is now pushed over to frame 1008 from 1001 and applied to the blue ball. And then of course I've made the curve larger, so we're going to have more rotation, which is just more overlap. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the curve here, just select it and then Control C copy. Then I'm going to select the orange ball, Control, on the same rotation, and I'm just going to Control V and copy it there. So if I left it there like that, it's just of course going to be the same keys as the blue one. So I want to push this further ahead so that it's got more drag. So we've basically been offsetting each of these. So I'll show you again. We've got our driving root, which is our green ball here. So this one starts at 1001. Then we've got our blue ball, which starts essentially at 1008. And then we've got this orange ball, which is even further offset. So with the orange ball, I'm just going to also exaggerate its motion so that each of the spheres that get further away from the root are going to overlap more. So now I can kind of show you guys what we get here, which is a really kind of wonky overlappy thing going on. So that's like the quickest way to deal with overlap. One thing that I want you guys to keep in mind though, which is happening right here, so we'll just correct it together. Whenever an object is going to start to move, like I'll step through here. So we've got the green one sort of moving to the left, and the blue one, if I sort of put my cursor here, this is where the blue one is starting. If I look at the left side of this little square on my cursor. So when I start to step forward, you can see that my blue ball is slowly moving away from the cursor. That's what we want to see. What we don't want to see is what I've got going on now with the orange one. So if I were to put my cursor on the edge here and I step forward, you can see that the orange ball is actually rolling to the right. So I don't want that. I want my object to drag from its initial location, but I don't want it to be moving over past its original location, because that's not really drag so much as it's just moving in the other direction instead of just dragging from where it started. If it started to roll this way to the right here, you know, essentially it would probably roll off to the right. We can assume in this case that it's probably glued together, but I just want you guys to be aware of that. So what I would do is take a look at my graph editor here. So if I sort of have my mouse there, so the worst offending frame, the furthest to the right, is 1004. So I don't really want it to be moving over that much at 1004. So I'll just set a keyframe here. I'm just going to nudge it back closer to its original starting position. And then let's just take a look at how that's done. So if I'm selecting this one again, put my mouse here. So that's pretty good there. So now when we play it, got our orange one overlapping there. And that's a pretty good example of overlap. So again, once we get into more complicated stuff, I'll start showing you guys how we're going to apply this to characters, but give this a shot. Just copying and pasting your curves, making sure that you're kind of happy with your first initial curve. You know, we're starting with the other principles, which is timing, where are our main keyframes here, like all the way to the left, all the way to the right. You've got your spacing, of course, so we're sort of easing in and out here. We're paying attention to what our spacing is doing. And then you can copy and paste those curves to give some overlap to your animation. So we're sort of layering these principles on top of one another, and you can sort of start to pick out where the different ones reside within the animation.